I would correct myself on my statement of the news searching for Charlie doesn't get brought up, because this episode did bring it up, but at the same time, with how Charlie is executed in this episode, despite being better than his last appearance, that doesn't mean that this episode was anything good when it comes to his character. The premise is really simple. Charlie wants to hang out with the Bears, and the Bears are willing to waste a day with Charlie, but this leads to Charlie going on an adventure on his own, while leaving the Bears all alone, to where, towards the end of the episode, they head back to their cave. That's basically what the entire episode is, and even though that there are some details in this episode that are somewhat worth exploring, that doesn't automatically mean that the major detail when it comes to Charlie being the mysterious creature is still being dropped. Even if the majority of the episode centers around the title, while Charlie and the snake hang out, it doesn't really change the fact that the snake itself barely appears, which would be the same snake in the season 4 episode, but at the same time, they probably didn't bring up the snake being a mother of some sorts in this episode, and with him or her being a parent in that episode, it really feels like that the people who wrote that season 4 episode just came up with that idea because they probably rewatched this episode and they want to have the snakes return in some other capacity. And the thing with Charlie in this episode, when he goes to the Bears cave, he's basically doing the same thing that he did in the last episode. The only difference is that the Bears don't appear in the cave through the majority of the episode, and then towards the end, their reactions when the windows got destroyed is never brought up. And truth be told, I still find it difficult to believe that the Bears are willing to be friends with Charlie on the fact that he destroyed their windows. And whenever Charlie attempts to do something, I understand it's supposed to be his kind of character to handle a situation on his own that is different compared to the Bears. But truthfully, this is another episode that I looked back the most when it comes to binge watching, and it's mainly the fact that they don't do anything with the Bears, which is one thing to have most of the spotlight focus on side characters, which does happen in many shows, but the more I look at it, it really gave me the impression that Charlie just isn't be able to carry an episode on his own this early in the series. Every time I look at the Bears in this episode, they don't even contribute much, and aside from the thumbnail that I show you, which is actually really humorous, they don't really do much to make this episode interesting, and with them returning home off screen really sums up that this episode is better off skipping, even though that this episode is slightly better than the last Charlie episode. This episode did showcase the other animals being friends with Charlie, which in all fairness, it did in the last episode, but at the same time, since that those are literally the only animals that Charlie can communicate at most, honestly, him being a chatterbox really comes at the price on the fact that if he ever talks to humans, he will probably have more of an issue on being a chatterbox for himself, so talking to animals is making him immune to the issue. And in all honesty, I would be on board with this whole dynamic of Charlie and the animals, but since they don't really do much of justice in future episodes centering around him, it really gave me the impression that Charlie just wants to talk to someone while the other won't be able to respond back, which really sums up more of the issues centering around his debut episode. This episode really tries to showcase Charlie as a character, but it all reminds me of his debut episode, and with the snake helping Charlie out, honestly, it's difficult to take their relationship seriously, judging of how little of an impression that Charlie made in this episode. It's still a slightly better impression than the last episode, but then again, the next episode after this is considered his worst impression yet. He may have gone better in future episodes, but this episode really is an example onto why I'm not really finding any appeal towards Charlie. And regardless if the later episodes improved his character, honestly, it's mostly a miracle that he managed to survive the first season of this show, since he was the worst character in the first season. Well, if you exclude Num Num. I'm giving this episode a 5.25 out of 10.